Hi guys, welcome to Vlogtober. Thank you so much for watching. If you have been watching my Vlogtober videos, I really appreciate it. Today I'm gonna go into my birth story and the pregnancy journey leading up to it. When I was pregnant with my daughter Lucy, who is now 11 weeks old, I really enjoyed watching other people's pregnancy vlogs. There are a lot of those on YouTube, kind of like week by week pregnancy updates, birth stories, all that kind of stuff. And I loved watching those. So I thought I would kind of put my own story out there into vlog form in case it interests anyone else. So my pregnancy journey leading to Lucy had its ups and downs. It had its really good times, its really bad times. And it was horrible and awesome and anxiety inducing and super fun all at the same time. So before I got pregnant with Lucy, I did have 2 miscarriages. The first one happened at 11 weeks, which was pretty late in the pregnancy as far as miscarriages go. Once you hit kind of the 12-week mark, a lot of people feel kind of safe from that whole thing. But so it happened at 11 weeks, which was, you know, it was hard and it was horrible. And the second one happened at 5 weeks, which was only like a week or so after I found out I was pregnant. And then after that, I got pregnant with Lucy, and pretty much there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry and fear the first trimester. With my first pregnancy that I lost, the whole first trimester, which I almost completed the whole first trimester, was relatively uneventful. I had a pretty easy time. I didn't have many symptoms. I never got morning sickness. I did have a few symptoms, really strong tiredness, exhaustion, and like sore boobs and stuff like that. But I never got morning sickness, which is like the one thing that everybody's like, that's like the big thing to get. And you know, that one ended with a miscarriage. And with my pregnancy with Lucy, I never got morning sickness either. So I was pretty worried, just because it reflected so much my first pregnancy. Now, morning sickness can be an indication that everything is going really well with a pregnancy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the absence of it means something bad is happening. But for me personally, because of my past experience, it really worried me that, again, I wasn't getting any morning sickness. I was still getting those other symptoms, like I was so exhausted. I was like so crazy exhausted. And I was going to bed at like 7, 8 o'clock at night some nights. And, you know, I had other things happening, but the morning sickness, the thing I was missing that I knew would make me feel better, wasn't there. And so the whole first trimester with Lucy was, on the one hand, really easy, but on the other hand, really scary. I mean, having gone through 2 miscarriages, I kind of didn't let myself get too attached. With the first pregnancy, I got really into it really fast. I really got into learning about pregnancy and babies and got really into the whole pregnancy culture, started watching vlogs and following blogs and just like reading everything I could. I got on all the mailing lists for like week by week updates. And with that third pregnancy with Lucy, I kind of didn't let myself do any of that, which really sucked because that was a huge source of like fun and like feeling connected to the pregnancy for me, is learning about it and reading about it and knowing what's going on. That really, I feel like, I guess just connected me with what was going on. And I didn't let myself do that the third time because I just didn't want to let myself go there if something bad was going to happen. So I didn't, and that was really hard. And I mean, I had days where I just kind of felt like this is it. Like, I'm pretty sure it's over today. Like, it's gonna happen today. I'm just like accepting it. It's over. And nothing ever happened. It was fine. I got into the second trimester really easily, except for the anxiety, which was like so hard. But anyway, I got into the second trimester and we got an ultrasound, we heard the heartbeat, we knew everything was looking good. I mean, still, it's hard to get over that like hump of expecting the worst, I guess, when, you know, you're coming from that kind of place. So there was still a little bit of that in the back of my mind, but once the second trimester came, my pregnancy got so much easier. I started to get more symptoms, but not many. I just never got morning sickness with her. And the symptoms that I got with her were like a lot. I mean, just through the whole pregnancy, I was exhausted, just tired constantly. I could not get enough sleep. You know, I got a lot of aches and pains. Just my body changing was just, it became really creaky. So once I was into the second trimester and I felt relatively safe and secure in the pregnancy and things were going well, I really started to let myself get back into that place of finding it fun. And I signed up for all the emails again. I caught up on all the emails that I had missed. I got back into reading all the books. I found it to be really fun to learn a lot about kind of the mechanics of pregnancy, the physiology of it. I really enjoyed that part of it. I started knitting in the second trimester. The first thing I knit for Lucy was the spiral blanket of Awesome. And that was the very first thing I cast on for her. And I cast that on for her like right when I got into my second trimester. And really that cast on was kind of like my exhale, you know what I mean? Like saying to myself, like, okay, everything's fine. I'm knitting for this baby now. It's actually gonna be a baby. I'm knitting for it and I feel better now. So that was really nice and really reassuring to have that knit project that I was working on for this baby that was actually going to be here. And that was a big deal. That first cast on was a really big deal for me because I did not let myself knit anything up until that point. And that was really hard because I was getting really into baby knits, like just looking at them on Ravelry, and not being able to cast them on was hard. But I finally got there, and after the second trimester, everything just became great. First trimester was really hard, really a lot of anxiety and stress and worry that went along with it. But after the second trimester came, I kind of started to let go of all that, and everything just felt really good. I was so excited to be pregnant. I was so excited to be going through this like big, not only change in my life, but like physical bodily change. Something I think made me find my pregnancy to be so much fun was the fact that it was novel to me that my body was changing so much, because I've never gone through a growth spurt. I'm a really small person. I'm 5 feet tall, and when I was a teenager, I just kind of like slowly stopped growing. I never went through a growth spurt. I just like, one day I was like, well, damn, I guess that's it. I guess I'm not gonna get any taller. My boobs aren't gonna get any bigger. Like, I'm done. That sucks, because, you know, when you're a teenager, nothing's good enough. But anyway, I just like never went through any kind of major bodily change in my life. And I never thought about that as being like something I missed out on. But once I became pregnant, my body slowly started changing and becoming a different body. I found it to be really fun because it was just something new, something different to get used to. Like every day I felt like there was something different in the way that I felt. And I'm a person who really thrives. It's weird. I thrive on routine, but I also thrive on periodic change. I think change is really fun, and I really enjoy having to adapt to new things in my life. And my body changing was was that happening, and I found it to be really interesting every time something like new would happen, even the negative things, even the things like it being uncomfortable to sleep and having to like figure out how I need to sleep now to make it comfortable. I mean, just all kinds of random things I found to be really interesting and really fun. And going back to the miscarriage thing, I do want to just say that when I was going through my miscarriages, it really, really helped me to know that there were other people out there who had been through the same thing. And what I had found when I was going through them is that there is a really major taboo around miscarriage. It's a subject that makes people really uncomfortable. And there's also, I feel like, a pretty wide misunderstanding of miscarriage. I know there are a lot of people who do get it, who understand it, but I feel like there's still a lot of people who don't. And I feel like the taboo and the misunderstanding, both are things that really easily contribute to a woman's feelings of perhaps guilt or self-blame when they're going through a miscarriage. It's really easy to ask yourself, what could I have done differently for this not to happen? And I think the public view of miscarriage makes it really easy for a woman to ask herself that. And I think that's such an unfortunate thing. I think it's a huge, I think it's a shame that that's how it is. Because the fact is that completely normal and healthy, fertile women have miscarriages. It happens. It happens so much more commonly than I thought. And I just kind of wanted to say that because when I was going through it, hearing other people's stories about them going through it, or hearing other people's stories about them understanding that it sucks for other people to go through it, really helped me. And I don't know, I think the more we are aware of it, of the fact that it's something that can happen to some people, the better off we are. The better off that those people that it does happen to are gonna be. Okay, anyway, that's enough about that. On to Lucy's birth. Giving birth is hard, y'all. It's really, really hard. But it's also really, really freaking amazing. It's crazy what we can do. It's crazy what like all animals can do. It's so funny to like express feelings like that, because I am one person and like literally billions of not only other people, but all the animals in the world too. Everybody else who's gone through it is like, yeah, we know. But it's so profound when it does happen to you and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. But anyway, so Lucille Valentine Trujillo was born on July 30th, 2018 at 7:26 p.m. She was born at Moonstone Midwives Birth Center. And yeah, Moonstone Midwives sounds like Moonstone Dye Works, doesn't it? Moonstone Beach is a local beach around here, and a lot of local businesses are called Moonstone something or other. So that's where that comes from. But anyway, Moonstone Midwives was the midwifery practice that did my prenatal care and who did my birth thing. And it was an amazing experience. I really, really feel very lucky to have a midwifery practice where I live. I live in a pretty small rural town. It's like a rural college community, and the options for prenatal care here are really limited. We have a very few selection of doctors to choose from for that kind of thing, and most of them are really old school in their practices. And in looking into prenatal care and where I was going to give birth when I was first pregnant, I just didn't like my options until I discovered we had a midwifery. And I really liked their ideals. I liked what they were doing. I liked what they stood for. I liked their practices. I liked their methods. The only thing is if I went with them, I would have to, I was making a decision to have an unmedicated birth. And at the beginning, I wasn't sure what I wanted. You know, I didn't go into getting pregnant knowing what kind of birth I wanted. But the more research I did, the more I just kind of knew I wanted to jump into it that way, because I found that the midwife model was the thing that really most closely aligned with my way of living and my way of thinking. So I went with them, and just from the beginning, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm having an unmedicated birth and it's not gonna be at a hospital. And I mean, if I really wanted to, I could have done whatever I wanted, even with them as my prenatal care, but I kind of wanted to go all in, you know? So I had a non-hospital birth too. They have a practice where they have their op rooms and stuff where they see people for prenatal visits, and then they have 2 rooms that are their birthing rooms, and they're just like big bedrooms. It's got a big bed, some seating, it's really cozy and comfortable. There's a big giant tub, private bathroom, it's amazing. And so I saw them through my pregnancy, and I loved it. I loved my care there. It was really in-depth, really involved. They really made me feel like a real person every time I went to see them. My visits were always like an hour long. And it was a lot of them really wanting to get to know everything that was going on with me and my body, and, you know, with me emotionally, everything. They were just amazing. And giving birth with them was also amazing. So Lucy was born on a Monday, and the Sunday going into the Monday, in the middle of the night at like 1:30 in the morning, no, 2:30? 2:30 in the morning, I woke up to contractions, and it was hard for me to tell at first because they were painful, they were crampy, and so I honestly wasn't sure if I was having gas pains or contractions. I had been having Braxton Hicks contractions, which are, to me, in my experience, felt like actual just contracting. They felt like pressure. There was no pain involved. So I didn't know whether, when I started having real contractions, if it was gonna be like immediately painful or if it was just gonna be like that kind of pressure feeling, and they were immediately painful. They started out being just kind of painful and like 15 or so minutes apart, and then within about an hour, they were like super painful. And pretty much they really slowly progressed, getting closer and closer together. After that hour, they were really intense, very painful, and they stayed that way the whole time. And so they got closer together, they got longer throughout the whole day. It was a Monday, so Colin stayed home from work and hung out with me just while I went through, I guess, this early labor. I was in contact with my midwives from the very beginning, and their plan was pretty much stay at home as long as you feel comfortable staying home, come into the birth center whenever you feel ready, and otherwise, once you get to this point, come in. So I stayed home for the whole day, and they slowly got closer and closer together, and every single one, though, was really very painful. And I couldn't rest, really. I couldn't sleep in between them because they were so close together. You know, they were like 15 minutes apart, and then 10 minutes apart, and then 8 minutes apart. And so I was just going through these cycles of rest and just like really intense, like drop to my knees, kind of like super painful. But it was a nice day other than the pain. But, you know, Colin stayed home with me. He did everything for me. I pretty much stayed in bed most of the day. He started reading that book to me that I talked about a few episodes back. And he just got me through it. And at about 4:30, I felt like I was ready. They were, I want to say 3 minutes apart or 4 minutes apart, something like that. I can't remember exactly. I was keeping track on an app, though, on my phone. And I kind of started to feel like something was starting to change. Something was getting more intense. So he drove us to the birth center, which luckily is only like less than a mile from my house. And I got there and they immediately started feeling way more intense, like way more intense. And they were pretty hard to get through. For me, my method of getting through them was just kind of focusing on them and retreating into myself. I had all these plans of like, I packed a birth bag, I brought knitting just in case. I had music that I thought I might want to listen to while I was in labor. Nothing. I just needed silence. I needed everybody to shut up and let me like focus, close my eyes, and get through these contractions. And that's what worked for me. And something my midwives told me before I went into labor, and it was advice that I found really, really helpful as I was going through it. It was, they told me to really focus on the rest periods. So the periods between contractions, even though they're short, they told me to focus on those and use that time to be restorative. And that really helped me, because the in-between times too, I was just quiet and I just wanted to like, I felt like I needed to just shut down and rest. So those in-between times too, I was just like, my eyes were closed. I was really resting. I was getting restored a little bit each time, because I was also really exhausted. It's really exhausting going through this whole thing. And plus I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, so I wasn't as rested as I would have been nice to be. But that was really great, being able to just kind of close my eyes and just collapse between contractions. And I was at the birth center for 3 hours before I had her. And man, that experience is tough, you guys. I mean, the experience is different for everybody. Yeah, it was unmedicated, and I could not believe that I got through it. It was really amazing. I would not have done it any differently. I felt really prepared. I think one of the other things that really got me through it was that I specifically intentionally went into the process letting go of any fear. I'm not particularly afraid of the idea of pain. I understood before I went into labor that it was gonna hurt, but I didn't really feel like I really understood what it was gonna be like. And to me, it didn't feel worth it to be scared of the pain or of like what could happen, what could go wrong. So I didn't let myself be afraid of that kind of stuff. And I really feel like I went into it without fear, and without anxiety too. And I feel like that helped a lot. And that wasn't, it's not just something you can tell yourself, like, don't be scared of this. It took work. It took really informing myself and really focusing on feeling good about it and having a positive attitude going into it, but also an open attitude. I feel like I went into it not really knowing what to expect, and having as little expectations as possible was really helpful for me, because I was able to just kind of go with the flow, and whatever needed to happen at that moment, I just let it happen. And it was really great. It was really intense. I feel like all my limits were pushed really hard, and it was difficult. It was exhausting, but it was wonderful. It was really amazing. My husband was wonderful. The midwives were wonderful. I cannot believe that people throughout history have been doing this. It's amazing. It's really amazing what our bodies can do. And I mean, any way a woman gives birth, medicated, unmedicated, cesarean section, any way you get that baby out of your body is just incredible to me. I'm so impressed. I'm impressed by myself going through it. I'm impressed by everybody else who's gone through it. It's really nuts. It's really an insane experience. It was surreal to me as I was going through it. It was just like, it's weird. It's weird, it's nuts, it's surreal. It's like all of that stuff. It's just crazy. Giving birth is crazy, you guys. And I know a lot of you already know that because you've already done it. But it was a really neat experience, and I feel so lucky that I got to do it the way I got to do it. And I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it was just such a happy time. It sucked some parts and it was really wonderful some parts, and that's just kind of how it was. So when I had her, it was really crazy. I was so focused on like it being over because it was so hard to get through, that once she was finally out, all I could focus on was like, I just like let everything go. I was just like, it was like an exhale, you know, it was like a breath, just like, oh, it's over. I'm like, it's just instantly was gone. All the intensity, all the craziness was just instantly gone. And Colin caught her and put her right on my chest, and it was really funny because I was so like relieved that the intensity was over, that once he put her on my chest, I was like kind of surprised. I was like, oh yeah, this is what we're here for. And she was beautiful and wonderful. She weighed 6 pounds 4 ounces when she was born. She's a tiny baby even still. And it was really, to be so cliche about it, it was really a magical experience. And it was hard, but I loved it. I had a really uncomplicated, really great birth. It was relatively textbook according to what my midwives say. It was overall, I think 16 hours, a 16-hour labor from the first contraction to when she was born. I did tear a little bit, so I had to get stitches, and that was definitely something that I felt when I was healing. It took me, you know, the first 2 weeks I was in bed just like resting and healing and bonding with her, and I could definitely tell that my body had been through something major, like all at the same time. And we took her home and got her home by like 11 or so. We didn't stay that much longer after she was born. It was really amazing too because the midwives did home visits with me and Lucy the week following her birth, which is just such a great resource because it meant they were checking up on me and how I was doing with my body. They were checking up on her, doing her weight checks, checking up to make sure breastfeeding was going well, all that kind of stuff. Really, really involved, and I didn't have to go anywhere. It was really amazing that they do that service. Yeah, so that's my story, my pregnancy journey and my birth with Lucy. And something, I won't talk too much about motherhood, but something that I have noticed about motherhood, which is really interesting to me, is that it has its ups and downs. It has its good days and its bad days, its good moments and its bad moments. It's moments where I feel like I am just like not understanding what's going on, and it's like I'm like doing such a bad job, and I'm like such a bad mom because I don't understand how to take care of my baby. And then there's other moments where I feel like everything is going right, and she's happy, and I'm happy, and we're all well rested, and I'm the best mom in the world, and I'm just killing it, and then there's, you know, nothing bad that could ever happen. And balancing those two, it's really interesting because during those bad days, it's really easy to forget that there have ever been good days. And during the good days, it's really easy to forget that there have ever been bad days. I feel like it's just like, I don't know if this is a thing, but like a motherhood goldfish memory. It's just every moment that I'm in is just like all consuming. Like raising a newborn is living in the moment, and nothing that's happened already matters, nothing that's gonna happen matters. It's all right now. And it's so easy to forget that when you're in the bad moments, it's really easy to forget that there have been a lot of good moments. And when you're in the good moments, it's really easy to forget that there have been a lot of bad moments. And I just find that to be really interesting. And I like to kind of keep that observation in mind when I am going through the bad moments, and just to really remember that, you know, sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's really not. But yeah, that's pretty much my story. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye, guys.